Howdy, boys and girls, and welcome back to the Carla and Crappy Show. Uh, Carla, we have done it once again. We are down to just one more game on the
Yep.
college football schedule and the conclusion of it was 13th, our 13th season, right?
Yeah. Somehow we've been talking about football on the interwebs for 13 years.
hmm
And apparently somebody is still listening. So, hi
Uh, t- uh,
Kelly.
tens of people are still listening to our every single word. Um, AJ, you haven't been here for 13 years, but you've been here for an awful lot of these.
A
And I
lot of
think
them.
our 13th season was definitely made better by the almost consistent appearances of our After Dark guy. Um, the thing I would ask you, AJ, just to get as we get into this, Carla and I both have uh, big rooting interests. You are perhaps a little more neutral, unless we're talking about
Mhm.
Hawaii. Um, I, so this season, again, we've been doing this for a long time, but in a lot of ways, this feels like a brand new thing. So, what has the changed landscape of college football done for your experience? What's the NIL portal, the 20 playoff, any of that stuff? More realignment. Um, how do you judge this one college football season compared with stuff that we've been through in the past?
I think this year was reminiscent. I don't want to
Mhm.
say it was as good as or better than or worse than, but it
Mhm.
was reminiscent of 2007. We had a lot of jumble
Mhm.
to the landscape between conference realignment and NIL and the portal. It's funny because even just like 2007, everybody remembers that year as being super chaotic and everything.
Mhm.
LSU and Alabama played in the national title game. It wasn't that chaotic in
No,
terms of like
but
what it came down to at the very end.
mhm.
And you get Ohio State and Notre Dame this year. Um, I think if you were to go back to whatever that was, week 3, week 4, whenever Notre Dame loses to NIU
Mhm.
and say, hey, the national championship game will be Ohio State and Notre Dame. I think a lot of people will go, how the hell did Notre Dame get there?
Yeah.
I think everybody saw it in Ohio State. Like, okay, yeah, sure, Ohio State will be in the playoff. They'll probably have won the Big Ten championship, or they will have made the
Yes.
playoff. They will made their case enough that they will be in the playoff.
Mhm.
Uh, and if they make it to the playoff, they'll probably make it a long way. So yeah, Ohio State being in the national title game seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's path was a little bit more circuitous. Um, I think the big thing that we saw this year, and I expect to see going forward, is
Mhm.
because of NIL and the portal, the talent doesn't clump so
Yep.
much.
Yep.
We're starting to see talent show up in more places than just here's like the 4 teams who recruit at this like absolutely
Mhm.
incredible elite galactic level, and everybody else is just fighting for scraps underneath. Um, and even then, if you look at Ohio State, yes, they have Jeremiah Smith and Meku Egbuka, who are both, 5-star recruits that they brought in, that
Yep.
they, developed or at least just kind of showed the world to Jeremiah Smith.
Mhm.
But you also have Will Howard as their quarterback, who was a
Mhm.
transfer from K-State. You have Quinshaw Junkins, who was a transfer from Ole Miss, and you
Mhm.
have Caleb Downs, who was a transfer from Alabama. Like the Ohio State roster was not a like go out and acquire 5-star talent from the high school level and recruit up. They were bringing in talent from other teams who
Yep.
basically wanted to play for a ring.
Mhm.
I think there's definitely a haves and have-nots situation here,
Mhm.
but I think we now have there's a little bit more parity. I'm not going to say it's magically more parity, and all 133 teams magically have a shot at the national title.
Right.
But seeing Boise State,
Mhm.
seeing Arizona State in the quarterfinal games, seeing
Mhm.
Arizona State almost take down Texas,
Yes.
seeing uh, all of the teams have home playoff games and how insane those stadiums got. Like I remember at the end of last year, we kind of were mourning the fact that we were losing the old college football
Mhm.
to the new one, right?
Mhm.
Conference realignment and the 12-team playoff, and you have all
Yes.
of this like shakeup where nothing that was happening last year is the same that happens this year.
Mhm.
It's very I'm excited for college football going forward because it doesn't seem to have lost the silliness.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem to have lost the dumb. And seeing Texas, your Final Four was Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, and Notre Dame.
Mhm. Mhm.
None of those are traditional SEC teams,
Right. Right.
right? Texas was is in the SEC, but they were not a traditional SEC team. Seeing Notre Dame in as a full independent, the most independent,
Mhm.
right, was interesting. Seeing two longtime Big Ten teams, one of them much longer than the other, but still both
Sure.
longtime Big Ten teams, you start to see the shift. Now, I'm interested to see what happens over the next few years because this is also reminiscent of 2014, 2015, where the playoff happened in 2015, where you had Oregon, Florida State, Alabama, and Ohio State,
Yes.
right? The national championship game was Oregon and Ohio State. So,
10 years ago yesterday.
so I can see a world in which, yeah, okay, the SEC probably gets back.
Mhm.
The SEC probably reloads and
They might
they
be.
move forward because they're in talent-rich areas.
They might be okay.
Um, I think we have, I think the sport is okay. I don't know that I'd call it healthy, but I would
Okay.
say that we're in a very
Mm.
good spot right now.
Okay. Okay. Um, we have actual football to talk about. There were since the last time we met with you guys, there have been two semifinal games, the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. And we will each take just a quick stab at our impressions from each of those two games. Um, Carla, do you want to go first or last with the Orange Bowl? Um,
Oh, oh, I can go first because my analysis is actually pretty straightforward, and
okay.
it's we talked a little bit before we hit the record button. Um, it was essentially a repeat of what I saw in Indianapolis
Mhm.
out of the Nittany Lions. It was a matter of focusing a little too much on Tyler.
Mhm.
Um, that was a little bit frustrating. That Drew Allar, it was the last interception in particular. If you go back and if you did a split screen
Mhm.
between the pick that Aller threw at the end of the Big Ten title game when they were
Mhm.
trying to drive to go down and tie the game,
Yeah.
and the pick that he threw with the opportunity to go down to try to kick the game-winning field goal,
Mhm.
it's almost an identical scenario.
Mhm.
He's staring down Tyler Warren, looks back across the field very quickly,
Mhm.
and throws an ill-advised pass, and both times he gets picked off.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's a feeling the pressure of the moment.
Mhm.
And just going back for as I mentioned, I mean, you smash the Tyler Warren button as much as you can, but you can't have him as a crutch, right? And I feel like in the game Thursday in the Orange Bowl, like Tyler Warren was the only option in Drew's brain,
Mhm.
between him and the running backs. Now, I will say he did do a nice job hitting Nick a couple of times,
Yeah.
and that was pretty effective hitting the running backs and getting some yards after catch. But to not have a catch by a wide receiver in the entire freaking game, like that's what's going to open up your offense,
Yeah.
right? Like you got to
Exactly.
hit Wallace at least once. Come on. And again, I just think I don't know if it's like a mental block for Drew. I don't know because the only time we've seen him play that way
Mhm.
are in all three of Penn State's losses. He played that way against Ohio State, he played that way against Oregon, and he played that way again in the Orange Bowl. And I hope it's something the good news is here, is that we get another season. And as we found
Yes.
out today, that we're gonna get a lot of guys back. Both Nick and Key have announced that they are returning,
Mhm.
so you're gonna have that full Penn State backfield again with Drew, and as well as Danny Dennis Sutton is coming back, which is a
Yes.
little bit surprising. I kind of thought he was going to go to the draft. Not surprising, Tyler Warren going to the draft.
Yep.
Which makes a ton of sense. As much as
And
I hate to
and
see him go.
and as I said with before we were recording, I am 95% sure that Penn State just has like this room down in the bowels of Beaver Stadium where they assemble tight ends, and when one leaves, they pull out another out of the room and put a uniform on it, and there it goes. and there's
Yeah.
another Penn State tight end because I'm tired of this.
So we'll see what they
But
do.
they will. I'm confident they will have a good tight end next year.
This is, by the way, Krabby, just so you know, this is
Yeah,
how the rest of college football feels about Ohio State's receiver
I'm
room. Just
aware.
so
I am
you know.
aware.
Like you just go down there and you go find another alien who's like 6'6", 230 and can run
Yeah,
a 3.940.
yeah.
Like,
Right.
sure, great, awesome. Love that for me. Like,
Yeah. So it was a frustrating game
Mhm.
because Penn State absolutely had the opportunity to win that game. I
Yeah,
mentioned before the show
absolutely.
I talked to my dad last night and it was the first time we'd talked since the game. And his statement being, obviously he was disappointed with the loss, but his statement being, I'm not sure the better team won the game.
Mhm.
And I do think that there were certain aspects of the game that Penn State played better than Notre Dame did. But the ill-advised timing of some of the mistakes that Penn State made just really ended up doing them in, and so here we are. I would Penn State have given Ohio State a run for its money in the national title game? Maybe for a bit. I have to say that I would be like hoping on a prayer in that
Mhm.
game anyway. But man, it would have been fun to have been there,
It would have
and that's why this one hurts.
been. Mhm.
Because I do think in the long run, and it's kind of giving away where we're headed with national title picks. In the long run, I do think Penn State would have given Ohio State a better game than Notre Dame is going to.
My gut feeling is that Ohio State catches a break because it's not playing Penn State. I think that is again a tougher, more diverse team across the board, more difficult to defend, and that would have been. I should knock on wood somewhere, but I think that would have been a bigger challenge. In what is a challenging game enough. I think some of that, Drew Allar, no question, made some poor decisions. And he does your comparison of Tyler Bourne as a crutch is apt. I think that's how he is how Drew Allar thinks of him. Um, but Penn State's defense did a nice job, or excuse me, Notre Dame's defense did a very nice job against Penn State's passing game, but in particular, holding to 135 yards. Um, they played well when it counted. Penn State was 3 for 11 on third down conversions. Um, Good things. Penn State did a nice job of containing Riley Leonard, especially in the first half. They limited Notre Dame and its preference to run to 116 yards. Um, there isn't, other than the stuff with Aller, I don't know and I saw a lot of discussion about this online. I don't see a way to blame this on James Franklin.
Mm-mm.
I'm not sure what. Again, outside of getting Drew Allar to look around the field a little bit more, I'm not sure what you do differently. That's
Yeah.
just
I think I think
well,
some of this lands on Andy Kotelnicki too.
okay.
There were some cute play calls, and
Hmm.
we'll talk about cute play calls from Sark later on. But there were some times where it was like, why'd you run that? Why'd you run that play?
Hmm.
Like, honestly, why is Aller throwing
Hmm.
on that
Yeah.
last drive? Why are you calling a pass play? You have two runners who were averaging at the time, because they didn't get another drive after it.
Hmm.
Nick Singleton averaged 5.6 yards per carry. Katron Allen was averaging 4.3. They each had 80 yards apiece.
Yep.
Yeah.
84 for Singleton,
Yeah.
82 for Katron. Like, to me, there's no reason you should have the ball in Drew Allar's hands. You hand it to your two workhorse running backs
Hmm.
and you run Notre Dame into the ground, because they weren't stopping you on the ground.
Right.
Penn
And
State
you had enough
stopped
time to do
Notre
that.
Dame on the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
There was plenty
There
of
was
time.
4 minutes left in the game. Yeah, you
Hmm.
had enough time to go do that. And
Right.
the offensive line was getting pushed all night. I
Hmm.
mean, they were winning that battle in the trenches, which to me was impressive. I didn't know who was going to win that was going to be the biggest, matchup for me. And the fact they were getting pushed.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Why give the ball to your workhorses in the backfield?
They only got you here The
Yeah.
whole time, like all season, you've been handing the ball to these two guys and letting them go nuts. Then the defense brings more guys into the box and you let Tyler Warren take the top off. Like
Hmm.
that's the offense. That's the whole offense. And when you try forcing it, like you said, when you try forcing it to Tyler and they don't have to respect the run anymore,
Hmm.
they can put two guys on him. They can bracket him. They can do all the things that can make life hard. What
Hmm.
Tyler Warren does successfully is take advantage of size matchups.
Yeah.
He was able to take advantage of matchups on the defensive side of the ball where they were trying to stop the run, and you didn't have to do that, right? You gave away uh, a late drive, and honestly, I was in I'm in a Discord where I was watching that game with people, and there was one person who said, "There's a debilitating Drew Allar pick coming soon, probably, right? Question mark. And
Ugh.
not 2 plays later was the
Right.
debilitating pick. And it was like, oh, there it is. Got it. It was like it was almost rude how quickly that person picked up on that pattern. And I was I was sitting there watching these two teams go back and forth. And they really were. We talked about this being a rock fight, and it was a rock fight.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, but when we are talking about this in terms of just like beating against each other, I think Penn State was doing more of the hitting with the rocks,
Hmm.
right? They were landing more hits with the rock, and I don't. That's the part I don't. Again, I don't blame Franklin entirely. There wasn't like a crazy decision where it's like, why are you taking a timeout there
Right.
type of decision.
Right.
It was much more in the um, like, why did you call that play?
Hmm.
You didn't need to call that play, and that to me lands more on Andy Kotelnicki than anything else.
Okay.
So I would put it there. I don't think Drew Allard necessarily had a terrible game.
No.
I think they asked him to do a lot more than he normally does. He was 12 of 23. Riley Leonard was 15 of 23. Um, and he had Drew Allard had one pick and 135 yards. They were not asking him to do a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think maybe had he been able to get some deeper throws going, it opens things up a little bit more underneath. But he wasn't getting those, so they didn't have to worry about anybody going deep.
Yeah.
So cool. There's your middle of the field.
Right.
Um, so we had the Orange Bowl. We also had the Cotton Bowl, a day later on Friday night. Ohio State scored twice in the fourth quarter and kept Texas out of the end zone on a goal line stand that will go down in history because it already has. Um, and to win that game 28-14. I'm going to go first. Just because I wanna. This game was about Ohio State's defense. The offense scored right off the bat, and everyone you started thinking, okay, are we going to do this again? The answer is no. There were a couple of holding penalties, one really dumb um, personal foul by Trey Henderson, who then made up for it on the final possession of the first half. When it looked like Texas was kind of gathering some momentum, that screen pass that scored. Um, to hold Texas to 58 yards, to put pretty consistent pressure on Quinn Ewers, um, and to live up to the reputation that this team has for the being a beast defensively in the red zone. That four play goal line stand, starting with first and goal for Texas on the one, and ending with a scoop and score. That's where the win came from. The offense got its points, not to the same degree that they had in the other playoff games, but Ohio State's defense won that game. So I don't know, Carla or AJ, what impressions you guys had? AJ, what did you think about that one?
I watched almost all of this game,
Hmm.
and the impression that I got was I think Texas has, and it's pretty clear they did the best job at taking Jeremiah Smith literally out of the game. He had one catch for 3 yards to the point where I went, is he hurt? Is he not on the field?
Yeah,
Is he like, did
yeah,
I
you
miss
wondered.
that? And he's just not in the game. And on that, like as I was saying that and like looking at looking for news on it, they were like, there's Jeremiah Smith down at the bottom of the screen there. And I'm like, oh, so he's in the game and he's fine. Got it. What happened? What was really happening is Texas was playing bracket coverage the entire game
Yeah.
on him. They were
Yep.
doubling him the way that, honestly, they stole that play from Bill Belichick. That is how Bill Belichick would take star receivers out of games
Hmm.
over and over again throughout his career as the Patriots head coach. He was just bracket coverage. It was just here. I'm going to have a safety watch you, and I'm going to have this corner watch you, and we're
Hmm.
constantly going to be doubling you the entire game, and we're going to make you beat us with somebody else. And then Ohio State said, "But wait a minute, we got Carnell Tate. He's very good at football too. And oh, by the way, we have a Egbuka who's also very good at football. Huh, neat." And
Hmm.
they just kept doing that. So Jeremiah Smith has 1 catch for 3 yards. Carnell Tate has 7 catches for 87 yards. Emeka Bucko had 5 catches for 51 yards.
Hmm.
You had other options.
Yes.
Um, so even when the offense didn't have the ability to just go destroy them with
Hmm.
Jeremiah Smith, they were able to lean on other weapons, which I think is honestly a maturation
Hmm.
from previous Ohio State offenses that like this I'll go back to the Marvin Harrison junior years of the last few years of, oh, Harrison's not doing well, the offense is destroyed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They went to other options and it worked. Next time Ohio State, though, I'm just saying this, and this is not really necessarily a shot at him particularly, but G. Scott, your tight end,
Hmm.
don't throw him the ball. Just they would throw him the ball, and it was like he didn't know where to go. Like it just that's what it felt like every time I watched him catch the ball. I'm like, oh, you gave it to G. Scott in space.
Hmm.
That's where he's going to be, and there he doesn't know where to go inside of said space.
I
He's
mean,
just
he had
there.
the wheel route against Oregon. That was he was
Yeah. Um,
he had the right idea there. But
he had a
I
couple.
know what
There
you
was a
mean.
couple of times where he caught the ball and went,
What do I
"All
do?
right, now where do I go? Do I go left or right?
Step
All
one,
right." And we're
secure
gonna
the
make
ball.
step one, secure the ball. And it was very odd to watch. But anyways,
Uh,
that's not necessarily a thing. I'm sure he's played better across the year. But there was a weird moment where every time they threw him the ball, it just looked like he was stuck.
hmm.
Um, speaking of, I mentioned earlier, cute play calling.
Hmm.
Sark, when you are down, this is something that Steve Sarkisian has gained a reputation for
Yes.
over his career of we're going to put up 1,000,000 yards. And the moment we get inside the 20s, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to put the ball in the end zone once
Hmm.
they're inside the 20. And so things like that, like pitch option,
I don't understand that play call.
what the
I do
hell?
not.
Like they 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 didn't block it well, and then Ohio State blew it up,
Hmm.
which then led to them backing up, which means we're putting the ball in Quinn's hands,
Hmm.
and Quinn did not see Jack Sawyer coming. By the way, shout out to the lineman who completely missed his block. Jack
Yes.
Sawyer cooked him on that block,
Yes.
strip sack, and ran 82 yards back. This is what good teams do. When the
Hmm.
offense ain't working, they get scores and points and stops from other sides of the roster. And
Hmm.
one of the things I do want to shout out to my coworker Steve. I was just at an event with him,
Hmm.
and he said, "Yeah, we had 18 people at my house, and that strip sack happened. My house has never been louder. I had to kick him out at 2:30 in the morning. We could not stop. That was a moment for us." And I'm like, I love that for you, Steve. He had
Yes.
a Buckeye pin on his jacket,
Nice.
like the helmet sticker. He has
Hmm.
it as a pin on his jacket. Love that
Okay.
for you, Steve.
That's very nice.
Um, but it was just one of those games where, like, Texas just kept trying.
Hmm.
They were just like, "We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get." No, you stopped me. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, and it was just like tension building the entire game. And
Hmm.
both I will say this, both semifinals were tremendous
Yes,
for all
absolutely.
the
They were both
hooting and
fantastic games.
hollering about the first round and, oh, these are all blowouts, so the
Yep.
playoffs broken. You had banger semifinals,
Yep.
absolute banger semifinals. So I don't know what we're mad about.
Um,
Um,
but I'm not personally,
you're
but
not mad.
no.
Carla may be a little mad, but
Carla, and I would understand that completely.
No, I
Uh,
mean,
Carla, what do you think about this one?
about this one, oh, so
Yeah.
just a couple things. Um, so first of all, when and AJ mentioned the thing about Drew Allar is going to throw like a monumental like interception here that's coming, I kept waiting for that to happen with the Texas offense, and then the strip sack happened. I was like, oh, there's the Texas we know and love. Like you just kind of kept waiting for that to happen because that's what's happened to Texas all year.
Hmm.
Right, just
Hmm.
AJ, your assessment there was spot on with the. It just felt like they were pushing, and it was like we're trying, and every time they would kind of crack the door open a little bit, Ohio
Yep.
State would slam it back in their face.
I have a coworker who was in the Penn State Big Blue Band
Hmm.
who was talking to me at the event tonight, and she was like, Texas and Penn State had incredibly similar seasons this year. They were
Hmm.
both very good teams.
Yes.
They were both doing really well. They get to the semifinals, but then they're like, both teams had to like hold them, rear their heads at the wrong moment, the moment you don't want. And she was like, it was absolutely maddening.
Yeah.
Absolutely maddening.
Although I agree with that assessment, other than the fact that I feel like Texas had much higher expectations placed on them at the beginning of the season. Like
Yeah.
the fact that they got absolutely lambasted against Georgia, like nobody at the beginning of the season, nobody would have like if you look at Ohio State, Penn State as a game,
Mhm.
you're gonna pick Ohio State, right? You see Texas, Georgia as a game, and going into that, you would have been like, maybe Georgia, maybe Texas got a shot
Yeah.
at this one, right? And
The
so
first game,
I
that first game being in Austin, I absolutely, yeah.
exactly that's the first game's the one I keep going back to,
Hmm.
and then the second game we came back around, and it's like, well, everybody's Georgia's banged up, and the whole bit, and even with a backup quarterback, Texas couldn't beat them. So it was kind of like I feel like in some ways Penn State exceeded expectations, like, and maybe that's just me coming at it as a fan, and we're so used to being disappointed that, like, for me, making the semifinal exceeded my expectation for this year. I
Hmm.
had hopes of being there, but we got further than I actually had dreamed that we were going to be. And the fact that we were on the cusp of a national title appearance is that's why this hurts so much, because that's what happens when you love a team, right? Whereas
Hmm.
Texas at the beginning of the year, had somebody said Texas is going to win the national title, we all kind of would have been okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
I could see it.
and
Hmm.
I could have, I probably would have considered it at the beginning of the season when you looked at who they had coming back. So, but yeah, so this was just the slam at the end, was impressive by Ohio State. I know it's been like this storyline has been like beaten into us over and over again, but the fact that these two used to be roommates, I just think is just that's just kind
Yes.
of like the knife that, like, let's just twist that knife a little bit harder, right? Don't we? Which I think is just this spectacular. But the play for me that really kind of was like, oh no, Ohio State is going to win this football game was the Trey catch at the end of the first half,
Yeah.
which
The
which
screen
which
pass.
you accredited was these it really did feel like Texas had some
Hmm.
momentum there.
Hmm.
And if you go back and you watch that play again, and you see this, I mean, first of all, it was the perfect play call,
Hmm.
absolutely perfect play call against that defense. But you go back and you watch that play, and Trey's got the ball, and he's got a caravan. Like it looks like a punt return or a kick return. Like
When
he's got his blockers in front of him.
he
Yeah,
caught the
they
ball and there are in the frame there are three offensive linemen out in front of him like, oh, he's even before Fowler said he can make a house call at any point. I'm like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
He
yeah,
has too much in front of him.
there is a football coach. There's an offensive coordinator who's watching that play going like, this is what I think happens every time I throw a screen pass. And there's a defensive coordinator going,
No,
no,
no, please
no, no,
no,
no, no,
please
no, no,
no.
no, 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 no. And it was you watch, that's literally hey, you're gonna do a check down or this is gonna be a screen pass where Texas is sending the house,
Hmm.
let him through. Will's gonna just throw it over the top of them. Trayvion's gonna catch
Dink.
it, and now he's got blockers.
Yeah.
And it just turns around the other way because if you look, there was a point in the replay where they're like kind of looking upfield at
Hmm.
Howard, like
Hmm.
Yeah.
from Henderson's spot, and you can see there's like four or five Texas defenders who
Hmm.
are behind him,
Yeah.
which means there's only six potentially in front of or to the side of him. And I see three Ohio State blockers in front of him. And I'm like, yep, yep,
Well,
now
and
it's a foot
It's not
race.
even fair.
and that same angle, if you watch it again, so you see the picture everybody shows is the one of like the caravan in front of Trey, right?
Hmm.
But the reverse angle of that is as soon as Will gets the ball in Trey's hand, he does this
Yeah. It's
in
like,
the
yeah, it's
I had
gone,
not seen that.
baby. I
in the
had not seen
background. Like
that.
as soon as Trey turns,
Hmm.
like Will's hands go up in the air because he knows.
Yeah.
He knows. It's the
Yeah.
exact same play they ran against Oregon.
Hmm.
That they did the same thing in the Rose Bowl when Trey went for that big run there too. So that for me was kind of the moment when I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Ohio State's gonna win this game, and it's it was just a good, again, both these semifinals were good. I mean, obviously one of them was much harder for me than the other,
Sure.
but we got two really really good semifinal games out of
Hmm.
this all. So
Crappy, who is 75 on the Ohio State line?
Um, um, crap, I gotta look it up.
because he
Carson
throws.
Hinsman.
Is
So
that yeah, that is him.
he throws one hand
Hmm.
out, shoves a safety or a corner,
Hmm.
and that guy goes into another Texas defender, and that's what springs Henderson. It's this one little tiny block I just watched the replay again, and I'm like, oh, that's what it was. And
Hinsman.
it is
Yeah.
hilarious to watch this, like, oh, he's running down the field and he has very large people in front of him. And yeah, they both get like multiple guys, and as soon as Henderson's past that
Hmm.
line,
Hmm.
he's gone.
Yeah.
There's nobody within 15 yards of him.
Yeah.
And that I think that's a great play call
Hmm.
and great execution by Howard, because there's a lot of quarterbacks who will leave that throw short,
Hmm.
Yep.
and the running back is catching it basically to shoelaces, if at all. And like they just made a play.
Yeah.
Same thing with
Yeah.
Sawyer. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, Jack Sawyer's, rumbling 82 yards back to the other side, back the other way to basically seal the game.
Hmm.
I am interested to hear the story of what happened after the Michigan game. Now
I am too.
I want the documentary now
Hmm.
of like what happened. When did you guys become the Joker? Like, when did that happen? Because that's really what's happened here is
It's
Michigan broke them,
yeah.
Hmm.
and they
Yeah.
play with they're hitting and they're playing harder than they were playing during the season. Now, sure, it's like postseason, you turn it up, we'll turn it on, whatever. But
Hmm.
like there's a level here of, okay, everybody was disrespecting us after the Michigan game and
Yeah.
no, to hell with that. We're gonna go beat everybody and go win the whole damn thing. So
Hmm.
yeah,
I do.
I need the documentary of that.
Yeah.
I am curious about that as well. And the first two playoff games, I think, uh, that kind of motivation gets you through. You're number one. You're playing. You're first time you're back on the field after 2 weeks of just constant noise. SEC team at home. Everyone's saying this is going to be a nightmare, and Tennessee's going to take over the stadium, and blah 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 blah. Motivation there for sure. Motivation to play Oregon certainly for the chance to get to them after the regular season loss. I was curious about how this game was going to go, and I think there was sort of a wavering in the focus. First latter half of the first quarter and much of the second quarter, particularly on offense, and that's why that screenplay was so important because it really stomped down the first crack by the Longhorns to kind of come back and make that more respectable. So a huge play, and then obviously the scoop and score to seal the thing was fantastic. This, of course, gives my Buckeyes a chance to play for the national championship. Um, that game, as we follow through on our normal protocols, at 7:30 p.m. on Monday, January 20th on ESPN, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in lovely Atlanta, Georgia. Lovely and snow-covered, I believe. The national championship college football. I think there's a sponsorship in there, but it's the national championship game. Number 8, these are seeds again. Ohio State versus number 7 Notre Dame. Ohio State is favored by 8 points. That is down from the opening line of 9.5. The AJ Fun Index is 45.5, down from 46.5. And again, we are recording this essentially 1 week before, not essentially, 1 week before the game itself. So those numbers, the SEC is nowhere to be found. Funny thing about that. Okay. AJ, how's this game going to go?
Um, I think I need to calibrate a little bit here.
Please.
One of the things that we have been saying is like, okay, this is when it gives it up for Notre Dame. No, surely this is the time. They played Indiana, whatever. Oh no. And then they played a banged up Georgia team, whatever. And then they beat Penn State. But going into that Penn State game, people were like, no, no, Penn State's too good for
That's where I
I
was.
did too.
That's
But
where I was.
I think the big thing that we have seen is Marcus Freeman is coaching them up.
Mm.
Like he is leading them. I did hear an anecdote that after the terrible events that happened in New Orleans, Freeman sent all of his players to go be with their families.
Mhm. Yes,
He is a
heard that as well.
true stand-up human being. Um, Here's how cool. This is how much of a stand-up human being is. Marcus Freeman is making Notre Dame cool. Let's just put that out there, right? People
Right.
like Notre Dame now. How whatever. How bad? How many stupid coaches did you have before this that Marcus Freeman comes in and it's immediately like, oh no, this guy's cool. We're good with
Mhm.
Notre Dame now. Um, I I think this is I need to look at the injuries. I've not had a chance to look at the injury report coming out of the Orange Bowl
Mhm.
because it seemed like Notre Dame lost a lot of players through that.
Yeah.
I know that their main pass rusher is out. Xavier Watts is banged up
Mhm.
back there as a linebacker. Um, and Ohio State still seems to have everybody. Like
Again,
there's not a ton of huge. I mean, knocking on wood for you, crappy, but Ohio State
yes.
seems to have most of their guys.
Mhm.
They don't have any like, ooh, this person is very specifically missing, and that is a big problem.
Mhm.
I read a story about coming out of the Michigan game, how they worked on the offensive line and the
Yep.
rotation they started doing on the offensive line, which is what has led to the offensive line play of the playoff that did not exist against Michigan, that did not exist against a few other teams, where it was
Mhm.
like, oh, hey, why are people
They're
getting pushes
struggling.
on Ohio State's line? That's weird,
Mhm.
right? All of that experience is now coming to roost, and it's working out really well for them.
Yep.
It is hard for me to pick against Ohio State in this scenario. They have the more talented team. They seem to be in a healthier state. There is a motivation to go win a national championship and shut everybody up.
Yep.
That's really what this comes down to is we want to shut everyone up. And Notre Dame is I think if Notre Dame were to finish the season now and that was it. This is the end of the season, and
Mhm.
they lose in the national championship game. They can still consider this a success. They lost to
Mhm.
Northern Illinois
Mhm.
in a
Yep.
fluke of a game, and they came back and made it all the way to the national championship. I think they keep this a lot closer. I want to give Notre Dame credit here. I think they keep this a lot closer than 8.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, crappy. This is going to get uncomfortable. Or
I'm.
it's going to be they're going to keep it very close until late when Ohio State just has more bodies
Mhm.
and they just
Mhm.
run away with it at a certain point.
That
But
could be.
I think Notre Dame keeps this close for a while.
Mhm.
I think like Marcus Freeman and the defense that they've been running, they've been able to put people into effectively chokeholds for games.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that they can stop the big play the way Texas did. And I expect Jeremiah Smith to not have a one catch, 3 yard game. I
Mhm.
expect Jeremiah Smith to have a few more than one. And I expect him to have a
That'd be
few more
nice.
yards than three.
That'd be cool.
And I think Ohio State is celebrating a national championship.
Mhm.
I, I think the question will come back to in the offseason or next year is you got the national title.
Yes.
The blue team planted their flag on your field still. You didn't win that one. And so there's going to be a lot of people who I think I'm sitting in Columbus, Ohio right now.
Yes, you
There's
were.
still going to be some people who are going to have some problems. Like they're going to be thrilled that they won the national title game
Mhm.
and that they were able to turn it around. But
Mhm.
like there's that sting is still going to be there. So I'm wondering how much it's going to turn into like, okay, this is the 1 game season.
Mhm. Mhm.
And how long can you make a 1 game season?
Mhm.
This is Army Navy at this point of
Yep.
like we just want to beat that other team. I don't give a about the rest of the schedule. Sorry for the swear words. Beep.
Beep.
But how do you actually go after that? I think
Mhm.
this is a national title win, and this is a
Mhm.
national title winning team. They lost a very, very close game to a very, very good Oregon team, who they then went to the Rose Bowl and absolutely wiped off the planet. And they lost one other dumb game because mental blocks and rivalries happen, man.
Yep. They do.
So I think this should still be deemed an incredibly successful season, and there's going to be a big golden trophy sitting in Columbus soon. So there's my answer.
Okay, I'm doing fine so far. Carla,
So how
Yes, sir.
uncomfortable
Yes.
so how uncomfortable were you during the Cotton Bowl? Because to be perfectly honest, I kind of see like this being kind of like a replay of the Cotton Bowl again.
okay, okay.
I think Notre Dame has a very good defense. I think Notre Dame has a good enough defense to throw some pretty significant speed bumps against an Ohio State run game.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how effective that run game will be. Just because of the push that Notre Dame was able to get against, we laugh about, that Nick and Key went for a buck 60 combined.
Mhm.
That's low for them
It
combined,
is. It is.
right?
Um,
And so they were able to throw some speed bumps there. And let's be honest, Ohio State did not run the football well against Texas. And I think that's going to be like, we're going to lather, rinse, repeat on that. I think we're going to see a very similar approach defensively from Notre Dame that we saw against Texas. I think the difference here is, as AJ referenced, I don't think Notre Dame has the depth defensively
Right.
to slow down that wide receiver core.
Mhm.
I think they'll get some movement there, but there's no way they're going to shut. There's no way that Jeremiah Smith is going to only have one catch for 3 yards in this game.
Mhm.
I totally agree with AJ's assessment there. And I think, I mean, for the love of God, pull that screen pass out again. Right? I mean, like pull that play out
Yes.
again because that's
Yes.
going to work real well against that Notre Dame defense. Defensively, I think Ohio State has the same. I mean, if Penn State was able to give Riley Leonard some pressure back there, and
Mhm.
they did, I think Ohio State's going to do as equal, if not better, of a job at
Mhm.
doing that. And your key to Ohio State or to Notre Dame is to contain Riley Leonard, and I think the Ohio State defense is capable of doing that. They did it with Quinn Ewers, that and with Jack Sawyer. He's as much as we talked about Tyler Warren being Penn State's offensive hero,
Mhm.
like Jack Sawyer is like your Ohio State defensive hero, right? Like he plays the
Yes.
same role. It's the
Mhm.
same role, right?
Mhm.
And when he has a good game, the Ohio State defense has a good game, and I see him having a good game against Notre Dame. I see this game being a one-score game until potentially like almost again a repeat of what we saw in the Cotton Bowl, a
Mhm.
big defensive play late in the game to put the game out of reach. I really think that's going to be the difference here, but I think Ohio State raises the national championship trophy, and we get this interesting conversation about these two teams. It's a really interesting storyline, and one of the few times I wish I still worked in the profession because I haven't seen it yet, and I'm sure somebody's going to do it in the next week.
Mhm.
But this whole idea of these two teams that made it to the national title game, both coming off like significant resume tainting losses,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like every
And
like as
to be honest, my own fandom aside, a ranked team losing at home to Northern Illinois, and what Michigan was
right.
at that point in the season, not I would still prefer not to lose to a MAC team, but um, they're both really really dumb losses.
Yeah. And the redemption story here through the playoff, I think
Mhm.
is a story that, as much as we want to find out like what happened after the Michigan, like I'm with you. I want that documentary done too. But like the story needs to be told as we get into like the media run up for this national title game about this kind of redemption story for both of these teams because, you know, at the end of the regular season, had you told me it was going to be Ohio State and Notre Dame playing for a national title before they announced the playoff bracket, I would have laughed.
Mhm.
I would have laughed. Because I didn't believe that Notre Dame had a strong enough of a resume. We all picked Indiana to beat Notre Dame.
Yes, we
We
did.
We
sure
all
did.
we all
Yes, we
picked
did.
We
Indiana
all
to beat
believed
Notre
in
Dame.
you, in cursing Eddie. We all believed.
Although I will say that this has been beaten over our heads, but the idea of that the only two teams to beat Indiana are now playing for a national title, so beat Indiana, play
That's
for a national championship.
There you go.
that's right.
Um,
Next year, featuring our 12-sided game.
But all that to say, yes, I think Ohio State is going to bring a national title back to the Big Ten.
I I will say right off the top that I expect to not be comfortable on Monday. I do not in a million years think that this is going to resemble the Tennessee game or the Oregon game. Um, and I hope that the motivation to shut everybody up, to change the discussion about Ryan Day, I hope that is motivation enough for this team to approach this game as it did. And I would think playing for a national championship, yeah, you're going to do that. It is. I mean, Texas gave Marcus Freeman, a defensive guy, the blueprint for keeping Jeremiah Smith out of the game. It might be something they can do for a while, and if they do, I mean, AJ, as you mentioned, then you still got to worry about what the other guys are going to do. And you have to make sure that you're covering them. And I'm not sure that Notre Dame has the same kind of depth. It's a very talented defense. Their starters can play lights out, but I'm not sure that they have the depth to do that kind of juggling for an entire game. Um, and particularly if Ohio State can run the ball a little, doesn't have to be a lot. And if Chip Kelly is still able to protect the offensive line, um, and protect the running game with misdirection, with hey, screen passes, that would be nice. Um, I think that's going to be enough to kind of put the pressure on Notre Dame's outside defenders, and then then suddenly that's when you have Jeremiah Smith kind of showing up open over the middle, and doing Jeremiah Smith things. Um, on the other side of the ball, and you guys both reference this, Riley Leonard is the guy. If you can control him, and especially with the his rushing, you have an excellent shot of controlling the game. That's not always the easiest thing for Ohio State. Dylan Gabriel, the first time that the teams played, Dylan Raiola, Drew Allar, um, they didn't have. They're not like, no one's going to give them a Heisman for their rushing numbers, but they all rush for 30 or 40 yards against Ohio State, particularly Dylan Gabriel had timely rushes, stuff that hurt Ohio State in the during the in the course of that game. Um, and Riley, I think, runs better than all of those guys that I mentioned. Uh, Being able to control him, I don't. That's it's going to. I think Ohio State's going to be able to shut down Notre Dame's rushing game. Um, with Leonard being something of a wild card. Um, and then he's got to be able to throw the ball, which he did an okay job against Penn State. Um, I think Ohio State's pass defense is better than Penn State's is. I think that's when it just comes down to kind of a physical matchup, and I am still confident in Ohio State's. The Ohio State's still the third best rushing defense in the country. Might still be the best scoring defense in the country. Oh, maybe Texas upset that, but if it was coming down to Ohio State's defense against Notre Dame's offense, I have all the confidence in the world that Ohio State will come out on top of that individual matchup and the game overall. Which means I am celebrating. I already took. I'm going to need Tuesday off anyway. Either way, so I took that off. But I am confident that if that happens, I'm going to be celebrating a national title on Monday night and Tuesday and Wednesday and probably for several days after that. Boys and girls. You can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube and on the show's Facebook page. You can read us on our Substack. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. be sure to come back in August because as far as I know, we're going to do season 14, Carla, right?
It's gonna be hard to top season 13, but
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't see. Ellie's almost going to be old enough that we can have her as a guest on the show. So
almost, yeah.
there's that. Um,
Come back
Listen for
next
her
year
on
where
the
we talk
bumper, by
about
the way.
Texas,
Listen to this
Ohio State.
podcast all the way through. Listen to this podcast all the way through.
yes, you do. You do.
There's a new bumper.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I got to find that. I got to do
I
that.
can resend it if you need me to.
I might. Yeah, just go. Yes, please do that.
Hey, I'm
Yeah,
just throwing this out there. Join
yeah.
us in August where we will
Yes.
still be talking about Texas and Ohio State because that's actually a week 1 game.
It is a week 1
That
game.
is season opener, and my anxiety over that game is already kind of up about here.
Buddy,
Mid,
you
mid,
got to get through a national championship
I know,
game.
I
Calm
know,
down. You
but
don't get to talk about week 1 next year
we
until you're
will,
done
but
with
it's
this.
there. It's there. I'm just being honest. Guys, do you have where this is the portion of the program where we have offer our final thoughts. AJ, do you have a
Um,
way of wrapping up this show, this season, these games, whatever you want?
Sure. I want to thank everybody for listening. We put out like an hour plus of content every week.
Hmm.
That's a lot.
It is.
Thank you for listening. I'm sorry I made all the shows longer. It's my fault. But two, come back next year because
Yes.
there's plenty of silliness to happen, including just announced very recently, week 1 of next season, Texas opens with Ohio State in a
Yes.
game of similar stature. Duquesne goes to Pitt. That is a week 1 game, and I'm very excited about this. Now, if you're, they need to follow the Sickos Committee's advice and make it a
Yes.
home and home. Play it at Rooney Field.
Please. Please.
Put 2,000 people
Yes.
plus.
Mhm.
Put Pitt inside of Rooney Field, which is the tiny little stadium inside of Duquesne's campus.
And then don't sell them any tickets.
I mean, you could. All you have to do is
100
walk up
tickets.
onto the stadium.
Yeah,
There's nothing to sell.
that's true. That's
You
true.
just stand in the like the courtyard and you can see
Yes.
the football game. It's not that hard.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'll be very fun. Robert Morris opens the season with West Virginia next year, so you actually have a
Mhm.
backyard brawl
Ooh.
through the 2 smaller schools in Pittsburgh. So that's
That's
fun.
interesting.
Yeah, this has been a super great season. I think we'll have a super great season next. We're gonna have a national championship game. Crappy might be very happy in August, or he might not be. Who's to say? You'll have to tune in to find out. You will not know through any other social media method.
Crappy. My prediction number 1 for the 2025 college football season. Crappy will be stressed about that game the first time that we record in the late summer. Carla, any final thoughts from you?
Unless something silly happens and we record in July, because that's happened before. So stay
I'm
tuned.
not saying it won't happen because it has.
It has happened in the past. I don't anticipate anything ridiculous happening in the
Yeah.
off season, but the years that we say that are the years that something really weird happens. So
Mhm.
stay tuned, everybody. No, season 13, like I said, it's gonna be really hard to top season 13. Not only was it fun talking college football every week, but to see your team make it to a plateau that they haven't made it to in a long time was just a lot
10
of
years.
fun. It was a fun ride. And for us as a show to be able to do some things, and I got to do some of the fun stuff, getting to be on television
Yes.
Yeah.
as part of the show was never something that I in a million years would have ever
Huh.
anticipated doing. Or the fact that I am sitting here ending season 13 wearing a Carla and Crappy Show branded sweatshirt.
Maybe
Is
we'll
a-
figure out how to actually do the store this time around.
We're going to
That
do the
would be
store
awesome.
during the off season and get it
Okay.
ready so that it's there.
There's an off-season goal.
That's an off-season project, as I like to call them, in between semester projects, which is what I do at school. But yes, we need to make that happen because what a ride it's been. And I'm looking forward to next year. I have a lot of great things to look forward to out of my knits, with everybody coming back. And
Yes, you do.
I did look up, right before National Signing Day, Penn State picked up a very highly touted tight end named Brian Kortovich. So there's your tight end, for
God,
for
he's even
2020.
he even has a Polish last name. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That is perfect.
He's from Cleveland, even better. He played for Villa Angela St. Joseph.
Okay.
So
They had somebody it had a catch in the game who played for who was it Penn State tight end.
Mhm.
I'm now digging through the stats to go find this person very quickly. It was was it Khalil Dinkins? Yes,
Yeah,
Khalil
maybe.
Dinkins. He is
Dinkins?
a
Hmm.
junior out of
Dinkins?
Wexford, PA.
Nice. Went
So
to NA.
NA probably.
Yep.
uh,
Or um uh always could have signed up for North Catholic or
Right.
Central Catholic, but
But yeah,
huh.
so
let's do a
lots
very quick Google.
Yeah, please do.
He went to he did go to NA.
Okay.
NA.
So there you go.
Okay.
North Allegheny, for those of you in Nashville listening,
I,
a pretty decent football powerhouse in the Pittsburgh area.
yep.
So, but yeah, so lots to look forward to in season 14. I cannot believe we were on 14 years. Cannot believe that we were on 14 years.
It is crazy that we've been doing this for that long, and that I can't think of any legitimate reasons why we wouldn't continue to do so.
It's too much fun.
It
No,
is.
this is
It
silly.
really is. It it
This is
it
a silly
is.
thing that we do, and we're going to keep doing silly things. That's what we
I,
do.
I'm I remain a youngish person because I continue to do silly things, and this is one of the silliest. So
I ju Also, just so you know that in the off season, you
yeah.
might see this pop up on your TV.
Mhm.
Um, as of January 1st, Northern Illinois is now a Mountain West school. So that is a real thing, by the way, a
The
very, very real thing.
from
Yes.
the front range of
From the
the
front
state
range of
the front range of
Illinois.
the state of Illinois. Yes.
Which means you might see the Northern Illinois defeat of Notre Dame on Mountain West Rewind on their website, which I am very excited about.
Before I let Crappy get his final thought in, I need to
Yeah.
ask Crappy for a status update and AJ for a status update as well. We need to finally announce who won Bowlapalooza.
Oh yeah, we
Oh,
do. After deep tabulations,
yes.
it did come down to the final game of Bowlapalooza, which was the first responder bowl between North Texas
Hmm.
and Texas State.
Hmm.
And your final Texas State with, I believe it was a comeback win
Hmm.
to
It
beat
was.
North Texas,
It was.
sealed the deal for Crappy, who is your winner of this year's Bowlapalooza. Well done, Crappy.
Thank you. Thank you.
He went
Second
six for
year,
seven.
second year in a row.
He went 6 for 7. The only one that he missed was the one that we all missed, which was the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, where we all chose Colorado State.
I totally talked everybody into that pick too.
And he did. He took us all with him, I believe. And I came in dead last with 2 correct picks. So don't listen to me when it comes to
I
bowl. Listen to me about a lot of other things. I was right about a lot of things this season, but not Bowlapalooza.
Bowlapalooza was one unquestionably one of the highlights of season 13. We have some new faces, so it was great to get go through that show with some new people. Although Braden Gall was the person that I was tussling with for the last game, and Braden is of course has been doing this with us for a long time.
He was on our very first Bowlapalooza.
He was on our very first Bowlapalooza. Right, like the day after we recorded Bowlapalooza, I went to our neighborhood thrift store, as I have done in the past, to look for an appropriate bobblehead to serve as the prize for Bowlapalooza. Previous bobbleheads have all been Pirates guys.
Of the Pittsburgh variety, just so we're
Of
clear.
the
These are
of Pittsburgh,
baseball
yeah,
players.
thank you. I should point that out. Pittsburgh Pirates guys.
I'm just not
Um,
thinking of a
the
Captain Hook bobblehead,
less the less
but just the hook one.
obscure, the more obscure, the better. And there have been some good ones. Um, I went and I did not. There weren't a ton of Pirates uh, bobbleheads in the thrift store this time, but when I saw this guy, I knew it had to be. And again, so this is not a choice I'm making for me. I did this the day after we recorded the show. This is Dan Bilesma
Yes.
as a coach on the staff of USA Hockey.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Presented to you by the Pittsburgh Penguins and Trib Total Media. There's the USA Hockey flag back there. You can see the
Wow.
flag back
That's
there.
amazing.
So
Did,
congratulations to me.
does that mean you have
Thank
to
you.
go eat a Bielsma burrito now? Some of you get that reference.
I I don't know if they're still available. They may not. They may
What?
not be.
I'm trying to remember what was in the Bilesma burrito.
Uh,
It sounds
It was
like
at
food
Moe's.
poisoning.
I
Was
think
it
it was. I think it
Moe's or
was at
was it
Moe's.
Mad Max?
I thought it was
Oh
Moe's.
crap! I think it was Moe's. Um, yeah, we gotta find this out. Uh,
AJ's Googling.
I mean, sorry, that's what we have to do here. I don't see. Let's see, Bilesma burrito.
Kubota,
Yes, in his lucky burrito, it was Qdoba.
Qdoba.
Ah,
It is the ancho chili pork barbecue burrito at Qdoba.
Okay.
At the time, this was when they had fired the previous coach,
Hmm.
and the owner of the Qdoba franchise, which was like 3 blocks from Mellon Arena,
Yeah.
yes.
said he believes Bilesma is 20-1 at the time. This was June 9th, 2009, when eating his lucky burrito.
That was
So
also
there
the
you
year
go.
that the Pens raised the cup. So
Crazy.
There's that. There's that. Um. So anyway, that is this year's Bullapalooza trophy. I have to make room on my shelf over here for yet another bobblehead that Kelly's going to be really excited about. Um, as far as final thoughts go, obviously my college football brain, which is like here and then kind of over to here, and 99% of it, I was gesturing to my skull there for those of us who are
Podcasting, a
listening.
visual medium.
Yeah, like I have to make this clear. 99% of that brain is wrapped up in Monday's title game. Um, I don't necessarily think it will. This would put Ryan Day on a level high above John Cooper, and people were making that comparison. People, and by people, I mean me, and AJ.
I
Um,
also called him new. I also called him 2024 John Cooper. I
yeah,
did do that.
yeah. So I don't know that that's it's not going to it will not end that talk. It will not, but. John Cooper could not win titles. Some of that is a function of the playoff system we have in place now. That Ohio State could have 2 losses, including one really 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 bad one, and still get a berth in the playoff. Um, and that is a thing that's going to burn Alabama fans for time infinity. But that's the way it
I'm
goes.
sorry. Who lost 3 games this year? Who?
Bama.
Oh, oh,
don't
that's
lose to
weird. That
Oklahoma.
it's
Yeah.
weird that they lost 3 games. It's this. Listen, guys,
Oklahoma,
it's not that
Vandy.
hard.
No, it's not. Um, and it's not your non-conference schedule because you didn't lose any of those games. Um, so this guys concludes the 13th season of the Carla and Crappy Show uh, with our good friend AJ Kuftik. That is perhaps something that we're going to have to tinker with in the off season, but then we'll
Nope.
see. We'll see. No, okay.
No, it's the Carl
Cool.
and Crappy Show. I'm just here for vibes, really. I'm here to provide some silly and I'm here to provide some antics and a look at the rest of the world.
And that's probably
Uh,
what we need. That is not a bad thing.
Friends,
Um,
I also have to mention
Please do.
we get another year of Diego Pavia.
There's
yeah, we
that.
do.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Are they playing Auburn? They sure are.
Would that be in Nashville next? Do they
Yeah, it
do they
is.
go
It
back and
is.
forth?
Yeah, it
Oh,
is.
maybe that's the game we just come down to Nashville and watch that game.
Goal post in the river.
River.
Hmm. Okay.
Send them back to their natural home, which is the
Mhm.
water. That's where
Mhm.
all goalposts come from. And send
It's
them
true.
home.
This is true. This is true. So AJ, thank you for tonight and for being with us this whole season. It has been fantastic, and I meant what I said. Your presence here has made the show better.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Really do appreciate that. Carla,
Yes.
I'm not going to let you get rid of me for the 14th season, so I guess we need to do this again.
I guess we need to do this again.
Okay.
So we'll see you next year in week 0 when we're previewing Stanford, Hawaii, and Fresno State, Kansas.
Yes.
Yes.
Those are week 0
Yes.
games.
Yes. I'm
Um,
irrationally excited for
Oh,
that.
and Farmageddon in Dublin.
That's right,
Week
Farmageddon in Dublin.
week
oh my
zero's got
God.
bangers already, baby. We're good to go.
Let's yeah, we should get that on schedule right now. We should just no, we should not do that because I don't remember. But I almost did not remember like that we were recording tonight. So we'll be sure to talk about that one. Um and then the last people I would thank, as I do every week, guys, it is you. I am pointing directly at the camera for those of you who are watching. Um, we have a small, demented, devoted group of listeners and viewers, plus some folks that we don't know about. I don't recognize all the names that are on the subscribers lists. Um, but we doing this show for you is a huge part of the fun. We do this for ourselves, because I love talking about college football with AJ and Carla. But we do it for you guys too, and we appreciate that you are there, whether you're watching, you're listening, you're reading, if you're doing everything that you do. What was the hopping thing that I did last week? Was that it was something like this? It was, yeah, something like that. Um, I guess I can't do the thing that I would usually do about your team. I hope your team does well because I don't. If you're a Ohio State fan, I hope your team does well next week. Um, if you're a fan of anybody else, watch one more college football game, guys, because that's got to tide you over. Unless you're talking about replays on the Big Ten Network, which I will get into probably about April. That's usually when I sort of start watching those again. Um, but enjoy the final and enjoy the national title game. We hope you've enjoyed the season as much as the three of us have. And guys, come back in the fall because I really think we're going to do this all over again. Cheers to AJ and Carla, and cheers to you guys. Have a great off season, and we will see you back here in August sometime, right? See you then.
So, Ellie, today, what do we do on Saturday?
Watch football.
There's not much football left.
No. So we need to get more football.